Friday, April the 17th, and this is Angela Raincatcher. And for today, we're reading chapter 1, Comfortable with Uncertainty by Pema Chodron. And I think today's chapter is a little bit longer than the ones we've had before. This one's just 2.5 pages instead of just 1.5 or so. I don't know. For a moment I want to talk about just how time seems to be flowing. Which is to say that because days have seemed to be kind of the same every day, like whether it's a weekday or a weekend. I think the only difference is whether or not I'm jumping onto phone calls for work or not. So I actually have to stop for a moment and think about what is today. So that's why I kind of start these with what the day is, and I don't know if any of this is making sense, but oh well. Anyway, why don't we just go ahead and jump into chapter 21, which is titled Turning Arrows into Flowers. On the night the Buddha was to attain enlightenment, he sat under a tree. While he was sitting there, the forces of Mara shot arrows at him to distract him from becoming enlightened. But with awareness, he turned their weapons into flowers. Traditional teachings on the forces of Mara describe the nature of obstacles and how human beings habitually become confused and lose confidence in their basic wisdom mind. The teachings on the four Maras provide descriptions of some very familiar ways in which we try to avoid what is happening. Like the Buddha, it is possible for us to turn these arrows into flowers. Rather than trying to get rid of an obstacle or buying into a sense of being attacked, we can use it to see what we do when we're squeezed. Do we close down or open up? Do we feel resentful or do we soften? Do we become wiser or more stupid? And then the rest of this chapter is going to be looking at the four different Maras. So the first one is Devaputra Mara, involves seeking pleasure. Any obstacle we encounter has the power to pop the bubble of reality that we have come to regard as secure and certain. When we're threatened that way, we can't stand to feel the edginess, the anxiety, the heat of anger rising, the bitter taste of resentment. Therefore, we reach for whatever we think will blot it out. We try to grasp something pleasant. The way to turn this arrow into a flower is to open our hearts and look at how we try to escape. We can use pleasure seeking as an opportunity to observe what we do in the face of pain. Number 2, Skandha Mara, has to do with how we try to recreate ourselves when things fall apart. We return to the solid ground of our self-concept as quickly as possible. Tangro Rinpoche used to call this nostalgia for samsara. When things fall apart, instead of struggling to regain our concept of who we are, we can use it as an opportunity to be open and inquisitive about what has just happened and what will happen next. That is how to turn this arrow into a flower. Number 3, Klesha Mara, is characterized by strong emotions. Instead of letting feelings be, we weave them into a storyline, which gives rise to even bigger emotions. We all use emotions to regain our ground when things fall apart. We can turn this arrow into a flower by using heavy emotion as to develop true compassion for ourselves and everyone else. Number 4, Yamamara, is rooted in the fear of death. We are killing the moment by controlling our experience. We want to hold on to what we have. We want every experience to confirm us and congratulate us and make us feel completely together. We say the Yamamara is the fear of death, but it is actually the fear of life. We can turn this arrow into a flower by using the desire to control as a reminder to experience each moment completely new and fresh. We can always return to basic wisdom mind. Well, I don't know about you, but I'm certain that I have engaged in all four of those coping mechanisms. And I want to be clear when I'm reading this, there's a part of me that is like, oh fuck, I do these things. I shouldn't do those things. I should do these other things. I should be open. I should be compassionate. I should. And that's yet another way of beating myself up. And I think many of us have that tendency to do that. And that's one of the Maras that they talked about, was taking your emotions and weaving them into a story that then provokes stronger emotions, which, I think we all do it, or many of us do it, I should say. When I think about how we can use these teachings in this time of uncertainty, high emotions, or maybe numbed emotions, when there's a lot of death, sickness around us, and just a lot of like our whole world's been upended. I don't think that we should use these teachings as a cudgel with which to beat ourselves up or with which to judge and beat others up. That is not the point. The point, I think, is for us to gently and with compassion, to, as much as we possibly can in the moment, look at what is actually happening and how we are reacting to it. And going back to the sitting practice of, the sitting meditation practice, is that when we find ourselves telling ourselves a story, when we find ourselves, going down that rabbit hole of self-recrimination, we can give ourselves a gift of kindness and be like, that is thinking. And as much as possible, let that go. Just let it go and be here in the now. And that can be uncomfortable. And it is uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable for me. And I find that I can only do that for so long before I then go right back into one of my distractions. But I think that each time we come back, we have the opportunity to come back to that, to come back to being with ourselves in the present moment. And each time we do that, and each time we are able to do it a little bit longer, we're strengthening our ability to be in reality and to be in the now. And it gives us flexibility for how we want to react in the future, how we want to act in the future, rather than just, blindly reacting to whatever's happening. So yeah, I don't know what to go with that, except, yeah, it's uncomfortable. We all have our coping mechanisms, and let's just try to awaken a little more each day. Let us try to look at the reality of what's happening a little more each day, and let us try more. And with that, I just want to let everyone there know that I love you and I see you and I am here for you and I'm rooting for you. All right. Peace and blessed be.